Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you should happen to find this. This is the Quote of Arms podcast. Doing a special episode about shrines today with.
Hey everybody, my name is Zephram Frankhauser. I play with J-Ro on his Unsummoned Skull Twitch channel. I'm a college student, constantly in a state of Tubar, and I play shrines. It's one of my favorite decks, and it's one of my signature decks at this point.
Absolutely. Zephram was previously featured on an episode about.
Bears, the best creatures in Magic the Gathering. Fight me IRL.
Absolutely. As
Okay.
long as we're not fighting about Central versus Western.
We can do that anytime, anywhere. You and I, we have a blood feud about this.
Oh.
I still respect and love you, man. Don't worry.
Oh,
It's just the blood feud. It needs to be satisfied.
Yep. And there will be blood. That is the name of a movie. Anyways.
So, today we're here to talk about shrines.
So we'll start off with, what are shrines?
Right. So, shrines are a type of enchantment in Magic the Gathering. They first debuted in Kamigawa, and they're based off of... Well, Kamigawa as a set was a love letter to Japanese culture, or an attempted one at least. It had some problematic parts, and some very good writing otherwise. But Kamigawa, based off of Japanese culture, and in Japanese culture, gods... A portion of gods live within shrines. Shrines are holy places in Japan for worship. And the Hondens, as they're originally called, are shrines that do stuff on your upkeep. They are enchantments that all of them say, this does stuff on your upkeep, and it doesn't affect equal to the amount of shrines you control. So, for example, there's Honden of Infinite Rage. It is one of the first shrines, and one of the easiest shrines to play. It says, 2 in a red, legendary enchantment, shrine. I forgot to mention, all shrines are legendary, and that's the reference to how the gods live within the shrines.
And that does become an important point when it comes to the alternate commander. But we'll get to that later.
Yes, that is a huge part, but we can talk about the commanders for this deck in a second. Honden of Infinite Rage, at the beginning of your upkeep, it deals damage equal to to target creature or player, equal to the number of shrines you control. So, it's a 3-mana enchantment that by itself just pings something for 1 on your upkeep. But there's a shrine for every color. And now there's 2 for every color. So, back in the day when the Shrines deck first was a thing in, Modern, at max, you could just deal 5 damage to someone on your upkeep. Just zoot them for 5, and that was really good. And Shrines was basically an underdog deck when it first came out. Am I right, J-Ro?
Shrines in Kamigawa never really made that big of a splash.
Really? My understanding was that they actually made an okay Modern deck at one point.
Not that I know of.
Oh, I might be misleading myself. Huh. I'm gaslighting myself. I'm sorry. But shrines, they didn't make a big splash back then, apparently. They're still very good, though, in my opinion, because you can get a lot of them out relatively early, not relatively early in the game, but mid-game, and they just compound their effects. For example, the blue one, it draws you cards. The black one makes your opponent discard cards. The white one gains you life because white has no other tricks. And the green one creates... You were about to say, Jero?
Nothing?
Oh, sorry. I heard feedback and I thought it was me. Not me, you. My bad.
You're doing an awesome job. That's all the feedback I have so far.
Oh, gotcha. Honden of Life's Web, the green one, and it makes colorless spirit tokens for each shrine you control. So then, those were the original shrines. And then in M21, they came out with new shrines. That is Sanctum. They're not called the Hondens anymore. Now they're called the Sanctums. They came out with 6 new shrines instead of 5, because they printed one that was all 5 colors, and we can get to that one in a second. But the new shrines act way differently than the old shrines. They are still legendary enchantments that do stuff, but two of them are active abilities, not triggered abilities on your upkeep like the other shrines, and the other three activate on your pre-combat main phase, not on your upkeep. And so the ones that you have to activate are Sanctum of Shattered Heights and Sanctum of Tranquil Light. Sanctum of Tranquil Light is a 1 white, so just 1 white mana, legendary enchantment, Shrine, 5 and a white, tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less for each shrine you control. So on its own, it just play that turn 1. Now it only costs, because it counts itself, it now costs 5 mana to tap something, not 6 mana. But a lot of the shrines in M21 were really cheap, like mana cost wise. So you can play Sanctum of Tranquil Light turn 1, then turn 2, play your next shrine, then the green shrine, and just keep going up that chain until you have all 5 shrines out, and you're able to draw a lot of cards. You're able to tap down creatures pretty easily. And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then there's the red shrine, which says discard a land or shrine card from your hand, and it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrines you control. So that's basically you spell shape a card into 5 damage, which is really good. The other ones, Sanctum of Calm Waters. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may draw X cards, where X is the number of shrines you control. If you do, discard 1 card. Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add X mana of any 1 color, where X is the number of shrines you control. And then Sanctum of Stonefangs. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of shrines you control. So these are all... The best way I like to think of them is like a puzzle, right? To get them all into play, you complete the puzzle and you can start messing up your opponent with upkeep. It's not upkeep effects, pre-combat main phase effects in the M21 cases, and these new shrines have activated abilities that then allow for versatility and the ability to activate them at any time. The new shrines, in my opinion, are on par, if not better, than the old shrines in some ways, and then in other ways, they're not as good. But I mainly got into shrines during M21 when that came out, and I saw, oh, they're making new shrines. And a legendary shrine, not a legendary shrine, but a 5-color shrine, which was the 6th shrine they printed for that set. And that is the illegal commander of my shrine deck. So Sanctum of All... Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so what makes Sanctum illegal as a commander?
Okay.
It has the legendary super type.
So Sanctum of All, yes. So Sanctum of All is white, blue, black, red, green, 5 mana, for a legendary enchantment, Shrine. Now in Commander, the format that we play, you can only have a legendary creature, or planeswalker if it says so, as your commander. And Sanctum of All is not a creature, it's a legendary enchantment. And that, honestly, is something crippling to this deck, I think, because, for example, if you're playing, rules-enforced commander, which I don't know why you would, but let's go down this rabbit hole, you wouldn't be able to use this shrine, and it's a very powerful shrine, which I'll get to in a second. But it's an illegal commander, but J-Ro and I are outlaws, apparently.
Yeah.
So we just ignored that rule, and he let me play on his stream. So, Sanctum of All, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library and/or graveyard for a shrine card and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. And here is the kicker. If an ability of another shrine you control triggers while you control 6 or more shrines, that ability triggers twice. That is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, J-Ro, you've seen this deck pop off before. I
Hmm.
can usually get Sanctum out like turn 4-ish, right?
Yeah, being a five-color deck with um, any amount of green investment, it's not difficult to fix your mana, and it's not difficult to accelerate your mana.
Exactly. And speaking of acceleration, this deck is it is the fire and it is the accelerant. This deck plays into itself very well because I'm able to get mana easily at first. Then I drop Sanctum of All and I go get shrines that produce me mana and shrines that get me cards. So I'm just able to play almost every card in my deck until I win. Because when you have and like this is magical Christmas land a little bit. When you have late game a shrine that deals 20 damage on your upkeep, and then you're able to put out your Paradox Haze, which is 2 and a blue, to get an additional upkeep, you can just kill a player at 40 life with one shrine. It's incredibly good, the trigger additional time part, and that's what makes Sanctum of All such a synergistic commander for this deck. But sadly, he can't be the legal commander, so I do have a stand in. Jared, do you know who that stand in is?
I do. Would you like to say?
Of course, it is Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. She is 2 and a white. Sorry, I just had her card in my hand and then I dropped it. I'm on tile floor, so it's impossible to pick up, of course.
Okay, so go
So
with.
Sisay is 2 and a white. She gets +1/+1 for each color among legendary permanents you control. Sorry, among permanents you control. And you can pay 5 mana, white, blue, black, red, green, for to go and look for a legendary permanent with mana value less than or equal to her power. So she starts off as a 2/2. And let's say you have a green mana dork out. Well, now she's a 3/3. So you can pay 5 mana, go search for a not a green shrine, but a red shrine. Well, now she's a 4/4. So she works up a chain to where she can get a very high power by herself just from her searching ability. And then you can basically search for any legendary permanent you want. That's the other way this deck functions. And yes, it is slower, but it is legal, so it's the price you pay. Cost of doing business.
So, what do those two commanders have in common?
So, Sisay is they both deal with legendary. They both deal well with the shrines, but in different ways. But
There's one
Sisay,
ability that's really close, though.
yes, the searching ability. The searching ability is insane. So I don't know which I like better. In all honesty, I'm pretty sure I like Sanctum of All's searching ability, just because it's free, but it only happens once. Sisay's ability, if you're able to get up a lot of mana, like let's say you have a what is it called? I just had it. Here's Fabro Elder, which is a 1 green white vigilance, and it gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, and then you can tap it to add for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So let's say you're able to get out a permanent of every color, or darn near close to it. You can search for 2 shrines with Sisay, basically, if you devote your entire turn to that. But that costs a lot more mana, whereas Sanctum of All, it only searches for 1, but you have all your mana available to you. So their search abilities are very good. And they both have functioned well as commander before, but I do prefer Sanctum of All to Sisay. Now, Sisay is a legal commander for this deck, even though her casting cost only has a white symbol, because of that second ability she has, where she can search for shrines, not shrines, but legendary permanents, because it has all 5 mana symbols in it, which then makes her color identity into a 5-color card.
Correct.
So,
and one of the reasons why it's so important that they both have this search ability is because in Commander, your deck is 100 cards. Your odds of seeing a particular card are not very high. So
It gives the deck high consistency.
yes, and it
So,
allows
and
you to find those cards that require multiple other cards to work.
that's why they're both so good for shrines, because you need multiple shrines and these can search multiple times.
So in a given game, you'll probably get at least 20 cards deep in your deck if you're not drawing a lot. So you'll get your opening 7 plus like, about, I think in a slow game, getting about 10 turns is you're probably going to get that, and you get to draw for going first. You get about 18, 20 cards into your deck with a little bit of draw. So
It's, yeah,
you're gonna see
it's,
um, about 20 cards, and if you have 10 shrines and sanctum outside of the deck, you're probably going to see 2 of them without
and
without
that's if
searching
you're,
them out. And only having 2 shrines, they're not going to do that much together. That's why the searchability is so important.
yes, this searchability is absolutely vital to the deck. These are not the only tutors I have in the deck, though. I have other tutors like Thalia's Lancers or Idyllic Tutor and Enlightened Tutor. Those are both very good cards that let you search for any enchantment, not just shrines or other legendaries.
And if I recall correctly, I've seen Sterling Grove in there too, which can
Yes,
be a
but
tutor
I
in a
don't.
pinch.
Yeah, so Sterling Grove is a green and a white. Other enchantments you control have hexproof, and then you can sack it to search for a enchantment and put it on top of your library.
Is it hexproof or
I don't
shroud?
like sacking them. Let me pull the card out real quick. I didn't think I'd need it. My bad.
Think
It's not that I didn't think I'd need it.
that's okay. I can look it up as well. But I think it existed before hexproof was a thing, and before its templating existed.
Yeah, I think it was. It would be Shroud then, because it was what, Lorwyn?
Sterling Grove was before Lorwyn.
Oh wow, it was
from Invasion.
You're right. Yeah, yep, it does say Shroud. No, all enchantments you control can't be the target of spells or abilities. So yeah, it's Shroud. But it's a very good card to protect your cards. Now, another thing that is very good with this deck is, well, the best way to think of the deck is a 5-color enchantress tutor deck.
So enchantress Enchantress is an archetype. Usually green, white, sometimes in bands.
Enchantments. You're playing a lot of enchantments and a lot of benefits for those enchantments. So a couple of really good benefits for enchantments is, well, the original Enchantress herself, Verduran Enchantress, which is 1 and 2 green for a summon Enchantress. Sorry, that's the templating I have on my card. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card, and she's a 0/2. Now, I have a lot of cards in this deck, like Eidolon of Blossoms, or Satyr Enchanter, or Enchantress's Presence, or Argothian Enchantress, that all do very similar things. And it's, if you get all those value engines out, you're going to be just netting yourself so much value for your what's the word, for your castings of your enchantments. It's insane.
Yeah, getting to gain extra value off of things that you're doing anyways is a huge way in Commander of sort of snowballing the advantage that you have. It's also really neat how you're able to, because of Constellation and because of, well, some of the reprints that have happened with the latest Modern Horizons, that you're able to continue snowballing that advantage, draw additional cards, and use the cards that you're casting anyways to have some additional use, such as Doomwake Giant.
Yes, Doomwake Giant is a card that I have made people tilt with before. So Doomwake Giant is 4 and a black for an enchantment creature, giant. Constellation. Whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. So this is really good with Sanctum of All and Sisay because of that tutor effect. When they hit the field, that triggers Constellation, and it wipes out all their 1/1s, then all their 2/2s, then all their 3/3s. And if you're lucky and you get all of your and you get your card draw shrine out and your mana making shrine out, you're then able to just draw a bunch of cards and then play all of those cards. Because a majority of the cards in this deck are enchantments, then you just start wiping the board. It's incredibly good. The deck has actually very few removal options. Be like Doomwake Giant. Doomwake Giant is a great removal option. So are two of the shrines, both red shrines, Haunted of Infinite Rage and Sanctum of Shattered Heights. I also have Banished into Fable, which is a bounce spell that copies when you control an artifact and an enchantment, because I usually do. But otherwise, there aren't many removal effects in this deck, especially for other artifacts and other enchantments. I don't usually need them, but if you're able to get out, like, if you're able to place some curses on me or something like that, then you'll start throwing me off. I won't be able to deal with them, and eventually you can compound me like that, because I just don't have ways to deal with them. Now that you know my weakness of my deck,
Yeah.
Another thing I should talk about, though, is some key cards that make this deck what this deck is. So I've already told you about the shrines, but there's one card that I want to talk about, and it is the MVP of this deck. It is called Paradox Haze. I think I've already talked about it, but it is an enchantment aura, enchant target player. At the beginning of enchanted player's first upkeep each turn, that player gets an additional upkeep step after this step. This is incredibly good with both Sanctum of All and Sisay. It's better with Sanctum of All because it basically means you get 2 free tutors, but it's also good with Sisay because it's also good with Sisay and good with Sanctum because then it means those shrines you tutor for, they trigger twice basically. But if you have Sanctum of All out, that means they trigger 4 times because you get 2 upkeeps, and if you've got a lot of shrines out, then they start triggering twice because of Sanctum's second ability. So then you just get more value and more value and more value. It's incredibly good. Another one that I need to talk about, though, that has also made people scoop on the spot, is Sphinx of the Second Sun. It's in 6 and 2 blue, creature Sphinx, flying. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase after this phase. So the beginning phase is your untap, your upkeep, and your draw steps. So basically it means you have 2 turns in one, if you're not doing anything on your second main phase usually. It's incredibly good because, again, you get an additional upkeep, an additional free draw, and you get to untap all of your permanents. It's a costly spell at 8 mana, but when you can make a lot of mana, like this deck is, it has a lot of mana generation ability and ramp ability, then that's almost no cost to you, especially because you're immediately, if it is successfully cast, you're immediately going to get paid back with it on your pre-combat main phase, because you get to untap all of your permanents, have an additional upkeep, and then have another draw. It's very good. So what else can I talk about that is a real highlight of this deck? It is here somewhere. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I really can't. Right, it's right here. Sphere of Safety. It is a 4 and a white enchantment. Creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, or X is the number of enchantments you control.
And there are a few
This
different
deck is-
Ghostly Prison cards in there, I think, right?
This is the only Ghostly Prison card I have in this deck.
Hmm.
But when it hits, it basically means I'm not able to be attacked unless you're playing infinite mana. This card by itself, sure, it's a worse Ghostly Prison for more. But because this deck is basically Enchantment Storm, it gets incredibly good. And it basically means that you can't be attacked at all. And even if you are getting attacked, there's the White Shrine, Sanctum of not Sanctum Honden of Holy Fire, which then means you just gain all that life back because you gain 2 life for each shrine you control. That's good on its own, but when you just start getting more and more shrines, it gets insane.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also don't have that much in this deck because Sanctum of All, it allows you to search for your shrines again, but other than that, I have only one other recursion card, and it's very, very good. It's called Dance of the Mance. It's
Mm-hmm.
X, a white and a blue, sorcery. Return up to X target artifact and or non-aura enchantment cards, each with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If X is 6 or more, those permanents are 4/4 creatures in addition to their other types. So let's say someone plays I think it's like World Quiet or something like that, or Peace and Quiet, which destroys every artifact on the board.
Oh,
You're
there's a
able to
few of
play
them.
this
There's every artifact or every enchantment.
uh, are X target artifacts and or enchantments.
Okay, yeah, there's a number of effects like tranquility that destroy
Yes,
all enchantments.
Tranquility was the one I was thinking of. I was just thinking of
Okay.
its flavor text. Yeah, Dance of the Mance is basically a counter to that because not only do you bring them back, all your enchantments, you bring them back as 4/4 beaters that then just clean house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way this deck is just focused on making everything asymmetrical. You make it so that you have an advantage on every resource compared to your opponents, except for like creatures or energy counters, I guess. You you make sure that you have advantages on mana and card draw, and then you eventually just start compounding all of your shrines, and they snowball into death for your opponents because you're by the end of the game you're able to hit someone for 20, then drain everyone for 20, and then that person dies, and then you have a second turn because of your Sphinx of the Second Sun, and then that happens all again, and then everyone around you dies, and then no one wants to play Magic with you anymore because it's turn 6. Zephram, why are you like this? Sorry, that was a moment for me. Either way, this deck is a very fun deck that I absolutely love. And as with all of my decks, I love naming them, and because it is a sanctum of all, as the usual commander, I call this deck non-denominational church
Mm-hmm.
because it's a sanctum for all. Ha ha ha! I'm funny,
Yes, although I
but
suppose it would be quite miserable if somebody cast all is dust. Sanctum of all
can
is
we
dust.
can we not talk about that card here, please, J-Ro? I'm trying to have a nice day.
That's okay. I just thought it was funny they both had all in common. Um,
Yeah, no,
so another
because
card.
all is dust. Yeah.
Yep. So a counter to all is dust
Are
would be
there any other
something like
cards you think I should talk about?
up a little sentence, but that works. Uh, not that I
Sorry,
have
I couldn't
memorized,
hear you.
but no. So as a counter to all is dust, I'm not sure how if it's too expensive or out of your budget for you, but replenish.
Right, I've seen that card, but I've just been so busy building other decks, like my
Mm-hmm.
Secret Project deck or my Werewolf deck, that I haven't actually edited this deck with all the goodies from Modern Horizons 2, like Sanctum Weaver, which taps to add X mana equal to the number of not shrines, enchantments you control, or the new enchantress Sithis, who, whenever you play a shrine, you gain life and draw a card. I haven't added any of those cards yet, even just because I've been busy with other Magic projects and life projects. But those are definitely. I keep all of my decks in spreadsheets, and then when I see a card that I want to add, I just put it into a different section of that spreadsheet and like, okay, let's consider this. And
Alright.
Replenish has been on there for the past like 6 months. It's such a good card for this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, we haven't even talked about what Replenish does. Jared, could you explain Replenish?
Yeah, I have one in front of me because I've been looking over. I recently found a binder that has all my like really old, powerful cards in it.
Uh,
So I have a couple copies.
Nice. Hey, you want to hook a homie up?
Yeah, maybe. So
I'll
replenish.
trade you my.
If I was
I,
gonna hook you up, I'd just hook you up.
I was about to say. Sorry, I was about to say I can trade you my $7 hull breacher because it just got banned today, dating this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's. Uh, I mean, I'm glad that we don't have to talk about it anymore. It's kind of the thing. It is still in an Oathbreaker, which is an interesting thing, and I have it in a couple Oathbreaker decks that I'm testing out. But
Wait, it's still an breaker?
yeah,
Oh, that changes everything.
I
Either
have
way,
it. I have it
replenish.
in a yeah. So a little bit of a Hull Breacher aside. I have it in a couple of decks. One of them is stress testing. It's a deck that has wheels, and I want to see just how broken Hull Breacher can be. The
Oh, okay.
the other one is it's actually a bit of a combo piece. It's in a Tezzeret deck with Shape Anew, and the goal is to Shape Anew some random artifact. So I need cards that make artifacts but aren't artifacts themselves. So Hull
That is
Breacher is in the deck for that purpose.
that is really powerful. I like it.
So in that deck, there are
And also, sorry to
it's
this.
okay.
I didn't mean to cut off your tangent. It's just that we're doing this over Discord and we can't see each other's faces. So when I try to talk, time, yeah,
Not a problem. It's bound to happen. It happens every episode.
yeah,
And that's also kind of the nature of podcasts, right?
yeah. Modern podcasts because of COVID.
Yeah, it's also just
But
kind of how I talk. We accidentally interrupt each other. It happens.
oh yeah, I mean that happens like what 10 times every time we stream.
Yep. So yeah, there are. See, when I'm building the Oathbreaker decks, I like there to be a good amount of variance. So I'm a good amount of variance, but also a good amount of power. So there is the possibility of doing something like Hull Breacher,
Mm-hmm.
create a token, and
Um,
then
sorry, you cut out for a minute.
okay,
The best that I could get from that is you.
you cut out for a second.
Oh, I cut out. Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear you for a minute. I was like, oh, he must be talking and his audio's picking him up, but I can't be heard. Oh no.
Oh yeah, lovely.
Sorry,
Uh,
technical difficulties.
yeah. So shape anew the token that Hull
I
Breacher
didn't mean to cut you off
creates.
about the Oathbreaker, but we still haven't talked about what.
What replenish does, yes. So shape anew the token into Blightsteel Colossus is what I was gonna say. But replenish for 3 colorless and a white, it's a sorcery. Return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. You want to Wrath enchantments? Okay, we're getting all of them back. So what were we just saying about it being expensive?
Yeah, isn't it currently around $40? I believe.
Replenish is yeah, it's from Urza's Destiny, I believe. I think that's the one that has the potion bottle. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Around $200.
what's that? Oh,
$200.
yeah, it's on the reserve list, and people have been making speculative pickups.
I know this isn't a podcast for this, but can we both just say screw the reserved list?
I have certainly been public in that before. That I dislike the continued existence of the reserve list. I understand that
Yep.
it stood a purpose at a point in time, but honestly, what I would like to see would be functional reprints, not just watered down versions.
Well, the issue with functional reprints, when you let's say we make a functional reprint of a Gaia's Cradle, well, now we've just given the people who can afford a Gaia's Cradle 2 Gaia's Cradles to put into their commander deck.
Yes, and you gave people who couldn't afford any one.
I know. I'm not saying that that's a. No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that I think it. I like your idea. I just think it would be better if we fully abolished the reserved list. You
Honestly, I
know,
have no
it's just
problem with people taking the flip Gaia's Cradle and just flipping it over in their deck and saying they have a Gaia's Cradle and using it as a proxy that way.
Oh yeah, no, proxies are completely fine because this is a game for fun, not a game that you should be spending billions of dollars on. It's I don't think this is what Richard Garfield intended for the game, for it to be price locked like this.
No, well, I don't think he really intended for it to take off at all. Uh,
Right.
it was intended originally, from what I recall reading in articles, it was intended to be something that people played at conventions while they were waiting for the next speaker.
Yeah. He originally designed it for like college age kids and stuff like that, and for his and he also used it as part of his master's thesis, not master's thesis, doctoral thesis in math. Um, but otherwise, he never intended it to explode like this. Like, we always, I hear a lot of people joke, like, oh, this isn't magic how Garfield intended, or like, oh, no, this is magic how Garfield intended. But I just think modern magic as a whole is not at all how Garfield intended. Every
I
single part of it.
I'm not sure if it's just me missing a joke and finding out much later, but I know people were talking about lasagna tier. As
What'd you say?
I know people were talking about lasagna tier as just having fun with the game and such.
Mm-hmm.
I just made the
Yeah.
connection between lasagna and Garfield in that context.
Oh my god. Oh.
Oh man.
Why? Why'd you have to tell me that? Either way, I think I've talked about almost every facet of the deck. How it wins by compounding the shrines into value and effects.
Mhm.
Um, its other abilities that generate a lot of resources, and its prison card that basically wins you the game. Um, what else do you think I need to talk about this deck, Jero?
Well, now we get to the somewhat deeper stage of. Okay, we talked about how the cards function. We talked about how the deck essentially wins, compounding advantage, some direct damage, in some cases even some more aggressive styles, with regards to making everything into 4/4s and such. So, why are these shrines important to you?
I have always been a very big fan of Japanese culture. I'm a massive weeaboo, and it's because my dad worked for a Japanese company when I was a kid. Um, I remember he would go to Japan and bring stuff from Japan back for my brother and I, like little Japanese toys and chocolates and stuff like that. And I remember him telling me about his time in Japan and being fascinated by it. And then I found anime via anime like Sonic X or Dragon Ball, and I'm like, oh, cool, this is cool. This also came from Japan. And then just started doing more reading and research on Japanese culture. Um, I find it in. I love to study it and learn about it and everything. Not just because I'm a massive weeb, but just because I have a respect for the culture, and I think it's so interesting to study. So when I saw Kamigawa was a set in Magic, I immediately wanted to make a five-color samurai deck, but sadly there aren't five-color samurai. Um, and then I saw references to plenty of Japanese lore and mythos, and just thought it was amazing. A lot of my TD characters actually have a lot of Japanese influences. For example, I have a D&D tiefling who's a monk, and he's in his father, a demon, is based off of Shuten Doji, which is one of the demon kings of hell. Which is also the legend of Shuten Doji, and how he was defeated is one of my favorite stories in Japan. Um, I'm a massive fan of Japanese culture, and I've always wanted to go with my dad just to experience that with him. And these shrines, they're just really cool references to Japanese culture that I love playing. It's a fun deck, and the first time I played it, actually, it was I was at a low point, kind of during the pandemic, and I had just built this deck. I was going into work at 4 a.m. for a boss that I worked for, who I really did not like because we got political on last time I was on this podcast. He regarded me as one of the good gays and would call me that. And he was also, as my mother says, a COVIDiot and wasn't the best about COVID and believed a lot of misinformation about it. And I was kind of stuck at this job because I needed to be able to make money, and I was able to do it in a safe way by going in at 4 a.m. and leaving before anyone else even came in at like 9 a.m. And just being alone in the store all the time, having a horrible sleep schedule. And I made this deck around the time when I said I quit, and I handed in my 2 weeks. And so this deck I started playing around then, and it kind of got me through it a little, having fun with this deck and having fun in Magic the Gathering, because that's around the time I started playing with you, J-Ro, and streaming with you. So I kind of have an emotional connection to this deck where I made it right as I was coming out of a funk in my life, and I just started having fun again with Magic and playing it and to have fun. So yeah, I love shrines for a lot of reasons, and also I love it because it's a 5-color archetype, and 5 colors is my favorite archetype. 3 of the decks that I have brewing right now are all they're all 5 colors. One is my secret plan, and the other is a 5-color what is it called? Mutate deck using Horde of Notions. But
And there's the treasure deck.
Shrine.
Yeah. Or was that wasn't the secret, right?
What'd you say? I could.
That wasn't the secret, right?
Yeah, no, that one wasn't the secret. The secret one is not even. I'm not even going to tell you, Jiro, because I want it to be a fun surprise.
Well, yeah, and telling me right now is telling everybody. So.
But yeah. Oh, and the third one is Garth One Eye. Garth One Eye. I don't know what I'm going to do for that one. I'm thinking I'm just going to do sagas with Garth One Eye. Even though we won't synergize, it won't be a powerful deck, but it will be like a flavor win, But
I was thinking if I ever made a Garth One Eye deck, it would be Cyclopses and cards that reference eyes, like Evil Eye of Worms by Gore.
Wow, I didn't know J-Ro was ableist against the blind. Wow, can't believe
One
it.
Eye.
You
They're
all heard it here, folks.
They're not blind.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, if I did
sorry.
that, what I would wind up doing is probably getting Garth One Eye and see if I can get an altar of Garth One Eye as Leela.
Oh, that's good. I was actually going to go for Waning Garth from Wayne's World.
Yeah, that's what I usually joke about with him. But if he can't have a partner, then that's kind of sad. Just party on Wayne, party on who?
You could always just make it a special rule and get like the Prismatic Piper, use that as an extra one, and get a Wayne version of that, just so it has no game effect, but it's still there. It's there.
I wonder if one of the companions could work with him.
Ooh, yeah. Well, he doesn't have partners, sadly, but what companion do you think would work best with Garth?
I honestly have no idea. I hadn't really thought of it. Karuga, maybe?
Oh, that one would be good. But I was actually thinking of the black one, because he can create black lotuses, and you're probably going to be blinking Garth as much as you can. You can use the black one, which deals damage to people equal to the number of artifacts you control. So that would be good.
What?
Yeah, but
No, not partners, companions. The monsters.
Oh, companions. Shoot. Yeah,
that's a way to legally have another one with him.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. You could probably do. What's one that starts with W? I don't know any that start with W.
Okay. I mean, we could also go with ones that sound phonetically similar, but I'm not sure. I was just thinking of something else you could put in the command zone with him that you could alter the art to have both of them together, like Kuruga would work.
Yeah, Kairuga would be great. What? Sorry, not to get sidetracked again, but The original build of this deck was actually having Zagantha, my shrine deck, Zagantha as a companion because she can tap for 5 colors, and that's really good to just get out shrines like that. But then they changed the companion rules, and well, they'd already changed the companion rules, and it just wasn't as good. But it's still, and I had to take the card out just because I'm giving up cards like Starfield of Nyx for Zagantha, and that's just not a good trade off. So, sadly, I had to get rid of all of the companion stuff in this deck. But hey, I got to put in a Verdurn Enchantress and a Mesa Enchantress into this deck, so I think it was a good trade off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to what was I just talking about before that? Back to companions, though. I think who would work really good with Garth is actually oh, what are they called?
Obosh, maybe?
Yes, Obosh. That's the one I was thinking of. So you could do all odd converted mana costs, and then whenever you're able to cast your Brain Geyser, you can always choose an odd number, and that will just absolutely. And then you can deal damage while you're using your brain, not your Brain Geyser, but yeah, your Brain Geyser. Wait, no, but that is a source with odd.
All it does is increase damage, I think, right?
Yeah, no, Obosh just increases damage. It doesn't deal damage.
Is there
well, you could always...
What does Wayne do? Does Wayne do a fireball? Or Garth?
Garth does not do fireball, sadly. He does Shivan Dragon instead.
Oh, okay. Shivan Dragon does it have mana value?
Yeah, Shivan Dragon is 6 mana. So
6, okay.
Oh wait, you could do Gyruda, and that way, when it enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card among even mana cost among them onto the battlefield under your control.
I don't think Gyruda works because his mana value is 5.
Oh right,
he has to fit it. I think Karaga's probably the best.
You could do Zirda. Wait, which one did you say?
Karaga.
Yeah, Kairuga is really good.
Zirda could work because he does have an activated ability.
Yeah, and it is... Well, I honestly think Karaga would be really good because you're going to have your Black Lotus to help you, and, you know, your Shivan Dragon, your Brain Geyser, those are both going to be more than 3 usually. Mm-hmm. And you're also going to have your... what's the 3 mana one with Garth? Regrow? Regrowth is 3 mana.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But yeah, I think back to circle back around.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry. The shrines have been probably my favorite deck that I've played in the past year, just because it's always fun to make all of that mana, draw all that cards, and just feel everyone have all that salt when I just start zooting them for a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I mean, I just like watching a deck like that go off. At least the first couple of times, mostly because I like when people have fun, and it looks like a deck where you're having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, this deck actually also helps me kind of enter smug mode, where if the whole table is, because I usually become the arch enemy with this deck. If the whole table is trying to discuss how to kill me, I'm going to give them honest advice on how to kill me and tell them what's in my hand.
Oh,
just to help them along.
So that's more
I love to see
people
try and beat this deck when I accidentally start winning too good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so, for example, there's one time when everyone was like, okay, how do we kill him? How do we deal damage to him? I was like, okay, so first you're going to want to get rid of my Ghostly Prison. My Sphere of Safety. Then you're probably going to want to get rid of my Card Draw Shrine, but I'm going to get it back next turn. But it will make it so that I don't have to, I'll have to search, and I'll have to use my searches, and they're like, oh, okay. Well, what else could we do? Well, you could probably get rid of my red one. That'll cause me to do damage. And we were all just figuring out how could we defeat me. And I was helping them, and it was just a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that as long as you're open to stuff like that and you don't feel like the table's ganging up on you.
Hmm. Oh no, I love it when the table gangs up on me. Don't get me wrong, but I like it when they gang up on me and I'm winning. I don't like it when they gang up on me and I'm losing.
So this is a deck where you would play it if you want to see the beauty of the shrines. You would play it if
Yes.
you are okay with being the archenemy because you just enjoy being at a table with people that you like. Uh, you,
Yes, this is a deck that you play with strangers and never see them again because you absolutely destroy them and make them cry.
I mean, if that's the case, then they weren't necessarily people that would have made a good play group for you, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually only had someone cry on me once when I beat them, and it was a really tough experience because it was when I was still in high school, and he had
Hmm.
spent like $100 on this new commander deck that he was finally going to beat me with because I was kind of like the table runner at my high school's commander, like not commander but Magic the Gathering thing, and I just beat him in like 5 turns, and he started crying, and I felt so bad I felt so bad that I intentionally threw the next 2 games just so that he could feel good about the deck, and I still think about that at night to this day.
Yeah, there have been some times like that as a teacher where I've accidentally made players cry before. One of them was when we were doing the color. We would do the color challenges at the beginning of every school year, and no
Mm-hmm.
matter how experienced they were, they would still go through these color challenges of 20 card jumpstart packs, kind of like jumpstart packs. 20
Mm-hmm.
cards, 8 lands, I believe 12 spells. And basically, you have your opening hand plus 13 turns to win the game,
Mm-hmm.
and you have 10 life. So I require players to win a game with each color before I'll let them draft. And then
Oh,
when
okay.
when they draft, I want them to be able to evaluate every card they see. And so this is what gives them the
Mm-hmm.
basis for that. How do you know how good a mole drifter is if you haven't seen how good a 2/2 flyer is and drawing two? You staple them on a
Mm-hmm.
card, but until you've seen them separately, you can't really evaluate them properly. So there's a
I
student.
love.
What's that?
Oh, go ahead. I said I love that because it teaches them. You're teaching them, and I love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's teaching them card evaluation and teaching them how to win with different colors. So they have to win with every color before I'll let them draft. Because I want them to become good balanced players who can shift between strategies. Well, there was a time when I was playing the blue deck because they kept saying blue couldn't win and they were having trouble with it. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm Unsummoned Skull. It's because they would say the blue deck is trash because Unsummoned doesn't do anything.
Oh, how wrong they are.
Oh, for me, Unsummoned does everything. So I showed them things like how to unsummon a mnemonic wall and then use the mnemonic wall to get back the unsummoned. So any creature with until they could get a creature with more than 4 power, or really until they could get multiple threats, they were just never getting through.
I've never considered that combo before. That's really good.
So eventually, I beat them down with a Windrake because they didn't have flyers. And so when the players started crying because they needed to win with that last color before they could draft, and it was near the end, said, okay, well, the reason why we're doing this is so that you can show me that you can win with different colors, so that you can understand how to value those cards. I want you to tell me what it was that I was doing to win the game. So even if you don't have time to finish a game, I want you to tell me how did this deck win. And so
Huh.
yeah, the player was crying, but they cleaned themselves up when they realized that I was still giving them a chance to get the win with blue, as long as they could explain how it was that blue beat them.
That's like a that's like a mega teacher moment. That's like really good.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh,
I
That's
needed teachers. I'm sorry. I needed teachers like you
okay.
when I was a kid.
That's all right. That's what I miss about teaching in person, and I do a lot of that online now. But it, there's still part of that that I really miss.
Yeah, it's I also like teaching because I taught at a camp and I taught merit badges and stuff like that, and that's like not close to getting to know these kids over periods of time, but like well the thing I liked about teaching and why I might change my major eventually is just seeing it click, for them when you see it click for that kid,
Hmm.
that's what I like, and you help them along, and I get how in person teaching is so much better than
Yeah.
everything else. In person schooling, in my opinion, as much as it leads to negatives, as some people say, online schooling sucks.
I mean, I am an online teacher as well. It depends on who you have as a teacher, and it also depends on how that program is run. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything bad about my now former employer. However, what I will say is what I did for them didn't provide what I needed as a person or a teacher.
Okay.
And I am glad to not work for them anymore, even though it was not something that was my idea. uh, because it allowed me the time and flexibility to basically to create my own server, to create a community, and to sort of or to be able to help people in different ways, like I've done with various charitable things or various charitable streams and such. Uh,
Mhm.
because I didn't have the feeling that I had when I was a teacher, I managed to find it some other way.
That's really touching, Jero. That's awesome. So you're saying it's kind of like a blessing in disguise.
What I'm saying is being unable to continue where I was in person uh, didn't mean that I couldn't try to recapture that feeling some other way. I just had
Hmm.
to be creative.
I like that. That's really good.
Hmm.
Well, I know this is probably going to be one of your longer episodes as well.
That's
The one I
fine.
recorded with you a while ago was your longest at the time, I think, at almost an hour. But
We are at almost an hour as well, but that doesn't matter.
yeah, I do enjoy talking with you. But
Hmm.
do you think we've hit all the points that we need to hit, or do you
Um,
want to just keep shooting the stuff about how shrines are the best deck archetype and?
well, there's some things we can continue to talk about, at least for a little bit. Like, we've seen J-Pop America Fun Time now.
Mm-hmm.
You see that
Yeah,
on SNL?
I have not watched it yet.
Okay.
Uh, can you please give me your reaction to it?
Well, it's hilarious, and it happens to be set in Michigan.
Mhm.
And
My dad watches a lot of SNL. Would you
mhm.
like to tell me what his reaction was?
Oh, hey, that's you.
Huh? Oh wow. Yeah, but yeah. Um, no, my dad thought it was hilarious, and he said, "Oh, you got to watch it. I TiVoed it for us.
Hmm.
So next time I'm down there, I'm gonna watch it with him."
Oh,
But
nice. Yeah, they're also on
yeah, no.
YouTube.
What'd you say?
They're also on
They're
YouTube.
on- Oh, I forgot that.
Hmm.
All I've been watching on YouTube lately is John Oliver and Loading Ready Run.
Pretty soon you'll be watching in my Oathbreaker series, right?
Oh yes, of course. Shameless plug.
Yeah, because
Um,
first, I'll tell you this: one of the first episodes you'll be on it.
ooh, really?
Yeah. When I do these streams, I keep the VODs. In fact, that's most of what I do the streams for. Because well, I mean, there's some people watching sometimes, but usually when I do the streams, it's to get the VODs so that eventually I could do something with them, or just rewatch them, or something like that.
Okay. I forgot that you did that. I don't use Twitch as much as I should.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, oh, now that June is done, I can go back to playing non-five color decks, which means I can play Oathbreaker again.
Nice.
So if I'm probably going to see if there are any sign-up spots for Wednesday.
Oh yeah. Well, it's Thursday now.
Oh, it's Thursday now. I forgot.
Yep.
It used to be Wednesday.
Yep. We got the schedule changed up a little bit. So second season streams, Monocolored Monday, Tribal Tuesday, Horde Hump Day, Oathbreaker Thursday, Salty Saturday.
Okay.
So there's some new things in there.
So wait, so what was Wednesday?
Wednesday is Horde.
Oh, Horde. I loved Horde when we played. The Eldrazi deck we were playing with was the MVP.
I don't think it got to flip any, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we were... Oh, God, why don't I run a mill deck for to target the Horde? That would also be really good.
Yeah, the mill decks work just fine.
Because it acts as a player.
Especially if you're playing against Bolas. Because Bolas is tough.
Yeah,
I've
I've heard other people talk about how you've played Bolas and like Liliana and stuff like that, and I'm glad I started off easy with the Eldrazi deck.
Yeah, Bolas is particularly rough. I don't think we've played it on the stream yet.
Haven't you guys played it before?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's still separated.
Okay.
It is miserable to play again. It has Crack the Earth, Barter in Blood, Tremble, basically things that make you sack your own stuff. Skullrend deals 2 damage to each opponent, then they discard 2 cards at random. So basically, it forces you to rip your own board and hand apart.
So what you're saying is we need to play it next Thursday.
Wednesday.
I mean, not Thursday, but Wednesday. But
yep,
yeah,
Horde Hump Day, because
we got to.
Yep, Horde Hump Day because we got to get through the week together.
Yeah, that's actually a really good naming convention. I like that.
Thank you.
I apologize to cut it now, but I do have to get off the internet because there are other people in my house that need to use it for their score.
So where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at @Z_Frankhauser. I mainly post post-workout photos and, chest flexes because chest day is best day. And it was a pleasure talking to you all, and I hope you all have a pleasant journey.
Absolutely. So if you want to see your phone start sweating, best check out that Instagram. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Have a nice one.